so we're going to walk through this example of solving absolute value inequalities. So first of all, I'll give you the steps like we did in class. It's always get the absolute value completely by itself on one side of the inequality. And by doing that, you get rid of anything added or subtracted, and then get anything attached to the absolute value by multiplication or division. And remember, you can never distribute into an absolute value. So we'll walk through those steps. Then after you get rid of the absolute values, you have to think of the number of spaces you are. We'll go through that again when we look at the example. And then you're going to, at the very end, after you make your two equations, you're going to make a number line, graph your answers so that we can get everything exactly the way it needs to be for Alex. Okay, so we've rewritten our problem so that we have some space to work. So the first thing we have to do is get the absolute value by itself. So we're going to be getting that -8 off to the, to get moved to start with. So +8, +8, we have 6, absolute value n plus 7 is greater than 24. Next thing we have to do is get rid of that 6 that's attached to it. Remember, we cannot distribute into it, so we're going to divide everything by 6. So divide by 6, divide by 6. You still have the absolute values here. So we have the absolute value of n plus 7 is greater than 4. This means we have some equation, so some absolute value that is 4 spaces. We want all the numbers that are going to cause it to be 4 spaces away from 0. Okay, now to get rid of the absolute value sticks, we're going to have to think of those 4 spaces. So if I need to be 4 spaces from 0, it could be a -4. So at which point I'll say a -4 off to the left. Use the same symbol that we had in the problem, and then the stuff inside the absolute value minus the sticks. That's one inequality we're going to be solving. And then the other one is keep everything in the same order, +7, same symbol, and that's the positive. So that's how we get rid of the absolute values. We think of the distance from 0, and now we get to solve both of these. So -7, -7, -11 is greater than n. And then this one, -7, -7, n is greater than -3. Okay, a little bit of magic of resizing things. So now I need to see what my actual answer is going to look like. Because Alex is a little bit funny of whether or not it's an OR problem or if I can smush it all together. So we're going to start by doing a number line. And the important numbers are -11 and the -3. You always want to keep them in order, smallest to larger. -3. Because we don't have a line under the inequalities, we know that they're open circles. Okay, and then I have the small part of the inequality by the n, so the n is smaller. So this goes like this way. And on the other one, the n is by the bigger part, so I need the bigger numbers. Okay, so anytime you have a gap, this is an OR problem. So now Alex is very specific. You have to have the letter first when you're putting in your answers or it will mark it wrong. So I have n is by the pointy part, -11, or n is greater than -3. So that would be one answer that you'd have in Alex, and then I'm going to show you in just a second here. I got to resize things, and then I'll show you what interval notation looks like as well. Okay, so now interval notation is always going to have a starting point and an ending point. So if I'm looking at where my graph is, so I'm looking right here. This is my start. And I'm going to look at each part of the shading parts. So my start is, I'm going to -infinity as if I was keep going here. That's not too good. Infinity, sideways 8. And so my starting point, infinity isn't an actual number, it's a concept. So interval notation is going to have a rounded bracket because I can't write a check for that, for starting at -infinity. And then that shaded part is going to go until I get to -11. Since it's not a shaded in circle, I still get to keep parentheses. Now a gap just gets a little u, meaning there's a gap. And then I get to do my other part where it starts, the shading. So that -3 come, and that keeps going and going till forever because it's the arrow to infinity. So that would be the interval notation for it if it was at or equal to. So if there was a line under the inequality, then there would be a square bracket by the -11 and a square bracket by the -3.